My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 32, living in the suburbs of Chicago. My husband Ryan is 35. My mother-in-law is Diane. That Sunday night at 6:47, Diane said something in front of the whole family that made it click. I wasn't just not fitting in, I was being cast in a role. Dinner was at Diane's house in Naperville. The table was packed. My sister-in-law Brooke, her husband, their 2 kids, a cousin named Marlene, and a few other relatives. The smell of roast chicken and rosemary sauce filled the kitchen. I brought a homemade apple pie and a bouquet of tulips because Ryan told me, just be a little softer. Mom likes that. Diane took the flowers, gave me a thin smile, then set the tulips down by the sink like she was putting away something unnecessary. During dinner, she didn't ask me about my job or my week. She asked point blank, "So when are you two having a baby?" Then looked around the table like she'd started a fun topic. I said we were talking about it, trying to pivot to the kids and their school. Diane didn't let me pivot. She looked at me and said, "Claire always talks like she's in a meeting. If you're going to be a wife and a mother, you need to be a little more pleasant." I heard forks tap plates. Brooke stared down. Marlene smirked. I kept my voice even. "I just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable." Diane tilted her head, sugary sweet. "Uncomfortable? You're making the whole family uncomfortable." Then she turned to Ryan as if I wasn't sitting there. "Son, I'm telling you, your wife doesn't know how to communicate. You need to teach her again." I looked at Ryan, waiting for one simple sentence. "Mom, don't say that." But Ryan just laughed awkwardly, eyes flicking toward me like a warning. "Don't make this bigger." Diane sealed it. "That girl doesn't have the charm to be a daughter-in-law." I set my napkin down. "Excuse me, I'll grab some water in the kitchen." In the kitchen, the dishwasher hummed. I stood by the sink, staring at the tulips lying there. Out in the dining room, Diane kept talking, and I heard Ryan add, "Claire can be a little too direct sometimes." No one cut Diane off. No one defended me. No one asked if I was okay. On the drive home, Ryan drove in silence. Streetlights stretched into yellow streaks across the windshield. I asked, "Did you hear what your mom just said?" Ryan let out a tired breath. "Don't blow it up. Mom just wants you to fit in." "Fit in means letting her say I don't have charm in front of everyone?" Ryan tapped the steering wheel. "You talk like you're debating. You need to soften up." My mom hates confrontation. I stared out the window and finally understood the core problem. It wasn't what I said. Diane had already chosen the story about me, and Ryan wanted me to play my part so the house would stay quiet. That night at 10:22, my phone buzzed. The group chat titled Morgan Family popped up. Diane wrote, "Hey everyone, things got a little tense today. Claire misunderstood my good intentions again. Please be patient with her." Brooke replied, "Mom, it's fine." Marlene sent a heart sticker. Ryan reacted with a under his mom's message. I stared at the screen long enough to understand. They'd locked in their version. I was the sensitive one, the one who misunderstood, the one who made it tense. And if I reacted tomorrow, they'd call it confrontational. I took a screenshot, then another, just to be sure. I created a new album, The Truth. I saved the timestamps. Then I opened notes and typed one line. Sunday, 6:47 p.m. Diane said, "That girl doesn't have the charm to be a daughter-in-law in front of the whole family." Ryan stayed silent. I didn't reply in the group. I didn't argue with Ryan that night. I just started building a timeline because I'd seen how they operated. They didn't need evidence, just one agreed-upon story. 2 weeks later, Diane sent a message in the group chat like an order. "This year's Thanksgiving is at my house. Everyone has to be there." I read it and my hands didn't shake. I just realized that Sunday dinner was a rehearsal. At Thanksgiving, they'd do it in front of more people, then call me the disrespectful daughter-in-law if I dared tell the truth. If you want to see what I did with those screenshots, subscribe to follow the next part. I used to think the problem between Diane and me was just a generational mismatch. When I first met Ryan, he said his mom was picky but kind. Our first meeting was normal enough, brunch in Oak Brook. Diane asked what I did for work, what school I went to, where my parents lived. I answered clearly. She nodded and said, "Well, you seem very organized." Back then, I even thought it was a compliment. But after that brunch, the small tests started. Diane texted me privately. "You should call me Mom so we're closer. But don't say it in front of Marlene. She judges." I read it and felt the weirdness immediately. Why did a simple word come with conditions, an audience, and a trap? When we got engaged, Diane created the group chat Morgan Family and added me immediately. In that chat, everything had to follow the script. I texted, "I'll bring pie." Diane replied, "No need, I have pie. You bring salad." I texted, "I'll be there at 6. Diane replied, 6 o'clock sharp. Not 6:10. We eat on time." I was never late, but I was always reminded as if I would be. I brought exactly what she wanted, but I was always corrected as if I lacked tact. After the wedding, I started seeing the pattern. Something happens, I have a small, reasonable reaction, and Diane retells it to other people as my personality. One time, Diane posted our wedding photo on Facebook with the caption, "Finally, my son is settled." I texted her privately, "Mom, could you tag me?" Diane replied, "I'm not good at social media. Don't make it complicated." That night in the group chat, she wrote, "Claire is sensitive about online stuff. Please be patient." And that was it. A technical request became sensitive. Marlene was the one who helped Diane turn those labels into family truth. Every time Diane said, "Claire gets tense," Marlene nodded. "Yeah, she's so corporate." Brooke usually stayed quiet to keep the peace. Ryan hated conflict, and because of that, he picked the cheapest option. He asked me to change my tone. Diane didn't have to do anything big. She just had to create situations where I couldn't do everything right at once. If I talked less, they'd say I was cold. If I talked more, they'd say I was overbearing. If I didn't reply to a text right away, Diane would write, "Are you okay? I'm worried." If I replied right away, she'd answer, "All right, don't get worked up." No matter what I chose, the conclusion was always the same. I'm tense. I tried what Ryan wanted. I smiled more. I asked Diane about her garden. I brought the exact wine label she liked. I practiced saying, "That sounds great," instead of asking, "Why?" But every time I gave in, Diane took one more step. The breaking point was the apology. After that Sunday dinner in Naperville, the next morning, Ryan handed me his phone like it was an assignment. "Text my mom an apology," he said. "Just say you misunderstood." "I'm apologizing for being called charmless?" I asked. Ryan frowned. "You're apologizing for upsetting my mom. You don't need to argue right or wrong." He showed me a template he'd already typed. "I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable yesterday. I'm just a little sensitive." I stared at "a little sensitive" and understood. They didn't need the truth. They needed me to sign my name under their version. I didn't send it. I only said, "I need time." That night, Diane texted in the group chat, "I just want the family to stay harmonious. Claire needs time to calm down." Brooke reacted. Marlene sent a sticker. Then Diane sent the Thanksgiving plan in the group chat. Arrival times, who brings what, and one small line at the bottom. "Claire, bring salad like last time." She wrote it like my role was fixed, and my job was to stay quiet so the holiday could pass smoothly. The stage was set. At Thanksgiving, if I said anything, They'd use the same line. She's not calm yet. I opened my album The Truth and saved everything. Diane's messages, Ryan's reaction, every timestamp. I also printed hard copies and slipped them into a clear plastic folder, the way I do at the office when I need evidence that can't disappear with one click of delete. I wasn't planning to turn Thanksgiving into a blow-up. I was planning to stop them from turning it into a fabricated version of me. On Monday after that dinner in Naperville, I opened my laptop and created a file named Timeline Morgan. 4 columns: date, time, quote, action, witnesses, evidence, rule, no feelings, only events. Sunday, 6:47 p.m. Diane. That girl doesn't have the charm to be a daughter-in-law. Witnesses: Ryan, Brooke, Marlene, Gary. 10:22 p.m. Diane texted the group. Claire misunderstood my good intentions. Ryan reacted with. Ryan saw the printer running and walked in. What are you doing? I'm saving what happened, I said. He gave a dry laugh. You turn everything into a court case. I need timestamps so later no one can say I made it up, I said. Ryan breathed hard, his voice low like an order. At Thanksgiving, you just stay quiet. Don't hurt my mom. I looked at him. So you'll stay quiet when she insults me too, right? Ryan didn't answer. 2 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. The display name was Cousin Jenna. Hey Claire, I heard you and Diane had something going on. Diane said you yelled at her. Are you okay? I had never yelled. But they chose the word yelled because it sounds more believable than was humiliated. I took a screenshot and replied with exactly one sentence. I'm okay. I just want things to be told the way they actually happened. That night, Brooke texted me privately. Are you free for 10 minutes tomorrow night? I want to talk. We met at a coffee shop. Brooke said it straight. Mom's calling people in the family. She's telling them you lost control and Ryan is worried about you. I asked, do you have any messages? Brooke paused, then handed me her phone. Diane's text to her was clear. Keep an eye on Claire. She overreacts. At Thanksgiving, don't let her ruin the atmosphere. I asked to take a screenshot. Brooke lowered her voice. I don't want to be in the middle, but I'm tired of Mom always needing someone to dump it on. On the way home, I added to the timeline. Diane campaigning with relatives. Claire yelled. Claire overreacts. Evidence. Jenna text plus screenshot of Diane texting Brooke. 3 days before Thanksgiving, Diane sent the plan in the group chat and tagged my name at the end. Claire, come early at 1 p.m. to help set the table. Thanks. I saw the trap. If I refused, I would be ungrateful. If I agreed, they'd create a situation where I looked like the troublemaker. I replied in the group, short and entirely in text. I'll arrive at 2 p.m. as Ryan and I already said. I'll bring salad as you texted on 10/22. I attached a screenshot of Diane's line. Claire, bring salad like last time. The group chat went silent for a few minutes. Then Diane wrote, everyone see? Claire always has to prove things and argue. Fine. Do whatever you want. Marlene reacted with, Ryan stayed silent. I took a screenshot. 10 minutes later, Diane texted me privately. If you want to be in this family, learn how to be considerate. Don't force Ryan to choose. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot. I added it to the timeline. That night, I printed everything. The group messages, the private message, Jenna's text, Brooke's screenshot. I filed them in a clear binder, tabbed, Group, Private, Witness. I saved a PDF copy to the cloud, then printed a second set and put it in an envelope. If the group chat got deleted, my copies would still exist. The next morning, another message came in, this time from Aunt Tessa. Tessa was Diane's sister, one of the few in the Morgan family who spoke directly and didn't live off appearances. Claire, Diane says you're making Ryan choose sides. I don't like hearing things through other people. If you have something you want to say, stop by before Thanksgiving. Bring whatever you have. I looked at the screen, then at the envelope. It was the first time anyone in that family asked me directly, instead of listening to Diane's version. I texted back, "Give me 20 minutes, I'll come by." Thanksgiving wasn't a dinner anymore. It was a stage. And this time, I wasn't walking onto it without a file in my hand. Aunt Tessa's house was in Downers Grove, less than half an hour from Naperville. I arrived at 6:30 p.m., carrying the envelope and the binder with tabs labeled Group, Private, Witness. She opened the door without a social hug, just looked straight at me and said, "Kitchen." Her kitchen was clean and practical, the way real life looks. She poured tea, sat across from me, and asked one single question. "What do you want me to know?" in chronological order. I opened the binder. "Sunday, 6:47 p.m., I said. "Diane said in front of the whole family, that girl doesn't have the charm to be a daughter-in-law." Ryan stayed silent. I handed her the printed page with the later group chat. 10:22 p.m., Diane texted the group. "Claire misunderstood my good intentions," and Ryan reacted. Tessa read without commenting, only underlined a few lines with a pencil. "And the part about you yelling?" she asked. I showed her the screenshot of Jenna's text. Tessa read it and asked, "Who started spreading it first? Diane or Marlene?" "I don't know for sure," I said. "But I do have Diane texting Brooke. Don't let her ruin the atmosphere." I showed her the screenshot. Tessa stared at it longer, then set the phone down. "Diane is doing one thing," she said. "She's locking the story first so everyone hears the same version. If you react, they'll call it ruining the atmosphere." I nodded. "I don't want to fight. I just don't want to be narrated." Tessa looked up. "What do you want at Thanksgiving?" "I want them to stop calling me overreacting every time I ask a question," I said. "I want Ryan to stop using 'you need to soften up' to cover for his mom insulting me." Tessa asked immediately, "Then you need an anchor point, a question they can't dodge if there's proof. Do you want to say it yourself, or do you want someone else to ask?" I had been thinking about that all week. "If I say it, they'll call me confrontational," I said. "If you ask, it's harder to label it as Claire lost control." Tessa nodded. "Okay, I'll ask. But you need to give me a one-page summary. Not long. No emotion. Just the quote, the time, who witnessed it, and the evidence." I pulled out my laptop and typed right there at her kitchen table. Title: Thanksgiving. Timeline summary. 4 main bullet points. 6:47 p.m. The line, "No charm to be a daughter-in-law." Witnesses. Context. 10:22 p.m. Group chat message. Claire misunderstood. Ryan's reaction. Private message. Be considerate. Don't force Ryan to choose. Evidence. Text Brooke received. Don't let her ruin the atmosphere. Evidence. Tessa reviewed it and changed a few words. Don't write insult. Write the exact sentence Diane said. She crossed out a few adjectives. The fewer adjectives, the harder it is to argue. We printed 2 copies at her house. One for her, one for me. She slid hers into a black folder clip. "I don't like drama," she said, "but I hate manipulation." On the drive home, Ryan called. "Where are you?" "At Aunt Tessa's," I said. He paused, his voice turning wary. "What did you tell her?" "I gave her the timeline," I said. No arguing, just what Diane said and the messages. Ryan lowered his voice. "You're dragging the whole family into this." "They already called everyone first," I said. "I'm just documenting the truth." Ryan exhaled hard. "At Thanksgiving, don't embarrass my mom." I replied, "If she didn't say anything wrong, she doesn't need to fear a question." Ryan hung up. Thanksgiving morning at 11:20, Diane texted in the group chat, "Remember to be on time. Don't bring negative energy into my house. Right after that, Marlene wrote, "Family is about gratitude." Then she added a turkey sticker. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot and put my phone in my bag. At 2:00 p.m., I arrived exactly when I said I would. Outside Diane's house in Naperville, cars filled the driveway. I held the salad in my hands, the envelope in my purse, and the one-page summary lying flat like a ticket. Diane opened the door with her perfect smile. "Claire, you're here. Let's have a nice day." I looked her in the eye and answered with one sentence. "Yes. Today we speak clearly." Behind Diane, I saw Aunt Tessa step into the living room. She caught my eye and gave me a small nod. Not reassurance, but a signal. She was ready to ask. Diane's house was loud from the doorway. Kids running on hardwood floors, plates clinking, the thick smell of roasted turkey and gravy stuck in the air. I walked in holding the salad, feeling like I was carrying something too small for a house full of unwritten rules. Diane took the salad, smiled, and said loud enough for the kitchen to hear, "Put it there. And today, Claire, don't get tense." Okay. That wasn't a reminder. It was a label slapped on me before the event even started. Ryan walked in behind me, placed a light hand on my back like a signal. "Don't react." I looked straight toward the living room. Aunt Tessa was already there, sitting beside Brooke. She wasn't doing polite small talk. She was watching, waiting for the right moment. From 2 to 4:30, Diane kept creating little situations to test whether I would be good. "You cut the bread wrong," she said when I sliced the loaf. "You poured wine without asking Marlene first," she said when I picked up the bottle. "You talk to Jenna like you're interviewing her," she said when I asked Jenna about her new job. I answered briefly and didn't argue. Every time I stayed quiet, Diane looked like she had scored a point. But I also saw it. Every time I stayed quiet, she pushed one step further. At 5:10, everyone started sitting down at the long table. Gary held the knife, ready to carve the turkey. Diane stood at the head of the table, her voice loud enough. "Before we eat, let's say a few words of gratitude." She looked around like a host. Then her eyes landed on me. "I know this year there have been a few misunderstandings," Diane said. "But family is family. If someone is tense, they should learn to speak gently, not turn everything into a tragedy." Marlene nodded hard. "Exactly." I heard a chair scrape. A few people glanced toward me, checking my reaction. Diane continued, still sweet. "I just hope Claire learns how to be considerate. Ryan has been so patient." I didn't speak. I set my chopsticks down neatly, aligned with the edge of my plate, the way I do when I'm forcing myself to stay calm. Then Aunt Tessa set her glass down. The small clink of glass on wood was enough to make heads turn. "Diane," Tessa said, calm and not loud. "Before we talk about being considerate, let me ask one clear question." Diane gave a tight smile. "Tessa, it's Thanksgiving." "A question is still a question," Tessa replied. "2 Sundays ago, at dinner here, did you say to Claire in front of everyone, 'That girl doesn't have the charm to be a daughter-in-law'?" The air froze. Gary stopped moving. Brooke looked down. Jenna's eyes widened. Diane blinked quickly, then laughed like it was a joke. "Oh my God, Tessa, I just said—" "Did you say those exact words?" Tessa cut in, still calm. Marlene jumped in. "Diane only said that because Claire answered in a rude way." Tessa turned to Marlene. "You're answering for Diane. I'm asking Diane." Diane glanced at Ryan like she wanted rescue. Ryan looked at me, then at his mom, not knowing where to stand. Finally, Diane said, "I might have said something like that, but what I meant was—" "I'm not asking what you meant," Tessa said. "I'm asking the words." I reached into my purse, took out the one-page summary, and set it in front of Tessa. She barely glanced at it and kept going. "And that night, at 10:22, You texted the group chat. Claire misunderstood my good intentions, right? Diane swallowed. I was trying to calm things down. Tessa nodded. Then the next question. Why did you text it like Claire misunderstood, when the sentence you said in front of the whole family was, "No charm to be a daughter-in-law"? A few people started looking at each other. Gary set the knife down completely. Diane's voice sharpened. Tessa, you're turning dinner into an interrogation. No, Tessa replied. I'm correcting a story that's being retold wrong. Then she turned to Ryan. Ryan, Tessa said. Did you hear your mother say that sentence? Ryan's face tightened. Auntie, Mom didn't mean. Did you hear it? Tessa asked again, slow and clear. Ryan stayed silent. That was the answer. I took my phone out and opened my album, The Truth. I didn't hold it up like a threat. I just set it next to my plate and said one sentence, not raising my voice. I don't need anyone to pick a side. I just need everyone to stop calling the truth overreacting. Diane snapped. You're doing exactly what I said. You brought evidence to the dinner table to make everyone uncomfortable. Tessa looked Diane in the eye. You called relatives all week first. You texted Brooke. Don't let her ruin the atmosphere. You made everyone uncomfortable before Claire even walked into your house. Brooke looked up, pale. Marlene went stiff. Diane shot Brooke a warning look. Brooke didn't speak, but her eyes said enough. She had that message. The table dropped into a strange silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence of people realizing they'd been fed a prepared version. Gary spoke quietly, his voice low. Diane, did you really call everyone first? Diane whipped toward Gary. Are you taking their side too? That was the moment I saw it clearly. Diane wasn't afraid of me. Diane was afraid of being asked the exact question. I stood up and slid my chair back gently. I didn't slam the table. I didn't cry. I only said, I'm going home. I didn't come to ruin Thanksgiving. I came so I wouldn't be boxed into the rude daughter-in-law role just because I won't stay quiet. I looked at Ryan. If you want a real conversation, we talk at home, not in a group chat. I grabbed my bag and walked out the door as the whispers behind me faded. When I opened the door, cold air hit my face. I took one breath, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't in that house anymore. Not physically, but in the power of their story. I got home at 7:02 p.m. I hung up my coat, set my bag down, and opened my laptop. I didn't write long. I just updated the timeline. Thanksgiving 5:10 p.m., Tessa asked directly. Diane dodged. Ryan did not answer yes, no. Claire left Diane's house. At 7:18, Ryan texted, You really went home? 7:19, My mom is crying. 7:22, You made the whole family look at my mom like she's the bad guy. I replied with one sentence. I left because I won't accept being called overreacting for repeating a sentence she said. Ryan called. I answered. What do you want now? Ryan asked, tense. My mom just wants the family to be calm. I want 3 things, I said. 1. Nobody gets to label me sensitive or confrontational instead of answering a question. 2. Your mom stops talking about me to other people as if I lost control. 3. You don't stay silent when she says something insulting. Ryan went quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, You're making me choose. No, I replied. I'm setting conditions for me to keep showing up. At 8:05, Aunt Tessa texted me privately. Are you home? I asked. Diane wouldn't answer straight. Gary asked again. I'll keep talking if they keep twisting it. I replied, I'm home. Thank you. At 8:30, the Morgan family group chat blew up. Marlene. It's Thanksgiving. Who does that? Jenna. I felt awkward. Diane. I just want harmony. Claire brought negative energy into my home. I didn't argue line by line. I took screenshots. I saved them. Then I sent exactly one message to the group without a long explanation. Diane said the line, "No charm to be a daughter-in-law," in front of multiple people on Sunday at 6:47 p.m. Repeating that sentence is not overreacting. I'm leaving the group. If you need me, message me directly. I left the group chat right after sending it. I didn't wait for reactions. At 9:10, Brooke texted me privately. "You did the right thing. I'm sorry I stayed quiet. Mom has done that to me for years. This time she aimed it at you." I replied, "Thank you." At 9:42, Gary called. I answered. "Claire," he said, his voice low. "I don't like family stuff turning into a big thing, but I also don't like a story being told one-sided. I heard what Diane said that day. I don't agree with it." "I'm not asking you to take my side," I said. "I'm asking people not to tell it wrong." Gary let out a breath. "I understand." At 10:06, Ryan came home. He didn't charge in to fight. He dropped onto the couch like someone who had finally seen the wall he used to pretend wasn't there. "Mom says you embarrassed her," Ryan said. "I didn't bring it up first," I replied. "Aunt Tessa asked a question. Your mom refused to answer straight." Ryan rubbed his face. "What do you want me to do?" "From now on, there are 3 rules," I said. 1. I don't go to your mom's house if there's any pre-work like calling relatives to plant labels about me. 2. If your mom says something insulting, you stop it right there, not later in the car. 3. If you want me to soften up, you also have to ask your mom to be kind. Ryan looked at me like he was measuring whether I'd back down. I didn't. "How serious are you?" he asked. "Serious enough that I won't walk into a place where people can call me disrespectful just because I repeat the truth," I said. "And I won't stay in a marriage where your silence is the tool your mom uses to win." Ryan gave a tiny nod. "I need time." "I'll give you time," I replied. "But I'm not giving anyone permission to keep speaking for me." The next morning, Diane called. I didn't answer. She left a long voicemail about family and respect. I saved the voicemail file, not for revenge, but as data. So if someone later says Diane never said that, I have the audio. 3 days later, Ryan told me he met with his mom and said one sentence he had never said before. "Mom, you can't talk about Claire like that." Diane reacted exactly how I predicted. She said Ryan was being controlled by me. Ryan didn't argue. He only repeated, "That's not up for debate." I don't call that making up. I call it the first time a boundary was spoken out loud by the person who needed to say it. A week later, Brooke sent me a screenshot from a different family group chat. Without me. Diane was trying to organize a talk it out session and wanted to invite relatives to witness it. Aunt Tessa replied with exactly one sentence. "If you need witnesses, the evidence is right there. Don't turn it into theater." That plan died the same night. I don't know whether Diane changed or not. I only know that starting that Thanksgiving, I stopped participating in a shared version written by other people. I chose new rules. Quote the exact sentence, keep the exact timestamp, and leave any place that tries to force me into silence. If you've ever been called inconsiderate just because you refuse to take the blame for someone else, comment boundaries. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe so you don't miss the next part.